Speaker, do you have an announcement?
Mr. Speaker, the governor of the state of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, and his party wish to be admitted to this chamber.
Property taxes in Illinois are simply too high. And that's why it's time to put the best ideas to work from both sides of the aisle. Local governments continue to max out their levies even when they don't need to. There are perverse incentives in state law that encourage that. We can change the law to support local governments and lower property taxes. And with nearly 7,000 units of government in Illinois, it's time to empower local taxpayers and voters to consolidate or eliminate them. These changes, along with our landmark pension reform that consolidated police and firefighter pensions, can make a serious dent in property taxes. Today in Illinois, we are governing with our heads and our hearts. In a time when cynicism has too often become the rule rather than the exception, we're proving that we really can make progress. We're showing the rest of the nation that pragmatic, progressive leadership is good. And putting our state back on the side of working families is important. A year ago,
there's a question I've had for a very long time, and it has to do with this map. This is a map of the 18 states in the US where Democrats control the legislative and executive branches, or else have some veto-proof majority in the legislature. Democrats in DC often blame the GOP for foiling their progressive vision.
When middle-class families see their taxes go up, they'll know Republicans are to blame.
But if you zoom into these 18 states, there's effectively no Republicans standing in the way. So my question is, what do Democrats actually do when they have all the power? To answer this question, I teamed up with the Times editorial board writer Binya Applebaum.
Okay, you got my attention.
He's been thinking about and writing books about and reporting on this topic for decades.
I think, Americans tend to view politics as a competition of us versus them, and they tend to think that if they would just get out of the way, then we can do the things that we want to do. There is no them standing in the way. There's just the we of Democrats and their supporters, and they get to decide what policy should look like in those states, and that is an opportunity for them to implement their vision.
For this story, I also delved into this giant document. It is the 2020 Democratic Party platform. If you want to really understand what Democrats say they want, what their vision is for America, it's found inside of this document. This document serves as a guide as we zoom into these states to answer this question. What do Democrats really do when they have all the power?
Nearly 554,000 homeless people from the 25 wealthiest Americans shows they're paying little in income taxes compared to their fortunes, sometimes nothing at all.
We cannot, in good faith, blame the Republican Party when House Democrats have a majority.
There's still very intense segregation happening in all kinds of forms all over this country.
Another major theme in this policy document is education. And the wording in here I find quite interesting. The Democrats say, quote, "We must provide world-class education in every zip code to every child because education is a critical public good." They use this word zip code to represent the fact that in America, schools get their funding based on the real estate taxes of the houses within that school district. The more expensive the neighborhood, the more funding goes to the school. So over here in Illinois, which is like the quintessential liberal state, there's this one county that contains the city of Chicago. It's called Cook County. The residents here voted overwhelmingly for Democratic candidates in the presidential and senatorial elections last year. Often what would happen is that this would just be one big school district, and that all the taxes from all the towns in this county would be put into one bucket and distributed equally throughout the county. But the residents of this very blue Democratic county have actually decided to divide themselves into more than 140 school districts. So now you have all these tiny school districts like this one, which are like gerrymandered around the richest part of town. And so all of the taxes from these rich homeowners go into one little bucket and then only get distributed distributed to the schools within this rich region of the county.
It can be on the same block that the town line runs through the middle of it, and if you live on one side of that line, you're consigned to an inferior education by virtue of the fact that you and your neighbors don't have as much money. And if you live on the other side, you're basically a member of a club that is sponsoring a private school, essentially, for the benefit of that small group of kids who are lucky enough to live in that affluent community. And the result is that poor communities have less money to educate their children, and rich communities have more money to educate their children. This is crazy. It means basically that the kids who have the greatest needs have the fewest resources.
When you hear local government, you probably think of the city of Chicago or Cook County. Maybe you consider wards and precincts, but you're probably not thinking of airports and mosquito abatement. You should be. Units of local government refer to cities, counties, townships, sure, general purpose political subdivisions of a state, and special purpose things like airports, museums, roads, and bridges. In the big old US of A, Illinois may be 25th in size and 6th in population, but when it comes to the number of units of local government, we're number 1! Woo! Depending on how you count, the land of Lincoln is home to 7,000 to 9,000 units of local government. Let's pick a place as an example. How about the village of Gurnee? It's home to more than just roller coasters and water slides. There are plenty of units of local government, including an elementary school district, a high school district, the College of Lake County itself, a park district, a library district, the fire department, the North Shore Water Reclamation District, the Central Lake County Joint Action Water Agency. In other parts of the county, you have a mosquito abatement district. Ow. A flood prevention district, and even a tuberculosis sanatorium. And they can all cost money. Enter property tax, sales tax, bonds, and even loans. Sound complicated? Well, to add another layer, some units of government cover only a single municipality, whereas others serve multiple, or a township, or a whole county, which are themselves units of government as well. Think of it as like a nesting doll of bureaucracy. Critics want to streamline things. They say many of these authorities are unnecessary and inflate property tax bills. Supporters argue the cost per taxpayer isn't much and that these specialized districts can better meet the needs of residents. Over the last few years, lawmakers in Springfield have tried to make it easier to consolidate or eliminate units of local government, but with thousands still on the books, our state's behemoth bureaucracy isn't likely to shrink anytime soon.